Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Divulgence. I'm very excited to be bringing back the show. And my name is Jordan Vezo. I'm joined today with good friends Andreas Xirtus and Thomas from Paranoid America. Thank you guys for joining me. We also have a special guest today, Miriam Hanayan. Hey, Miriam, how are you?
Hi, happy to be here, gentlemen.
Thanks so much for being here because you have a new book out about George Floyd. It's called, there it is right there. It's called George Floyd, a multi-layered psyop examined. So
It's called Operation George Floyd, a multi-layered psyop exposed. That's the
exposed. Oh,
old
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Okay. My bad.
Because there's a lot to George Floyd. I mean, I know we were just talking about this, that at this point, media goes by so fast that I think people think of George Floyd as like World War II or something. There's so many psyops that have happened since the George Floyd thing, but at the same time, so many things are tied around what is seemingly this one sort of blink in the page. A lot of things are all part of, I would say it's great to call it the Operation George Floyd because it connects to just about everything that happened leading from, the former election into, well, the last three elections, I think, are totally tied to the George Floyd from 2016 before it happened to the Biden election. And then the Biden fatigue that led to the return to South Park seasons Trump. I think it's all kind of connected. So I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, I want to say that people have George Floyd fatigue because they beat it over people's heads, but there's so much more underneath the surface that has to do with like drug cartels and government complicity and Freemasonry, and this is really multi-layered. So I hope to get into some of the layers, especially this was during the Rona regime, and I say that we went from virus to violence overnight.
Absolutely. I was living in Minneapolis, actually, just outside of Minneapolis when it happened. So it was crazy as the riots happened. And, from people being told, hey, you can't go outside because there's this crazy health issue, to let's all go outside and let's burn things down. It's totally fine. You should just go to the streets. You've got those masks already. You know what you can do with them is you can hide your faces. And just all of these interesting imagery or the verbal codage used, right? Because George Floyd couldn't breathe, like Pink Floyd, breathe in the air, and then chauvinism, Derek Chauvin. I think we'll see that there's kind of a lot of imagery chosen with there's a lot of synchromysticism in the Floyd. I like that.
Actually, the daughter, the one that got accolades from and money from like Barbara Streisand, her middle name is Pink. So
wow.
It's Pink Floyd. Wow. And we literally, like, there were no face diapers. And then the next day, as we're saying, I can't breathe, we're all under our face diapers. And that was part of the mass psychosis brainwashing. And also the 846, which is the same time as the North Tower in 9/11. Then they reneged it, and it was really 9 minutes and 29. And anyone that tried to like, why are you using 846? It's like, oh, that's just a little detail. Don't bother. And people even had 846 on across their face masks.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff there. The other thing is like the Black Panther thing, because in the old days in California, right, Angela Davis and Huey Newton, there was, I would say there was a legitimacy to the Black Panthers. And I grew up, in a place where there's like, a respectful, high intellect movement. It's a post Malcolm X movement. And we saw, I wasn't alive, but we saw a lot of them murdered, right? In the 60s, there was a lot of important members of Black Panther that were murdered, and then new characters that were brought into the Black Panthers and the Weather Underground that connected them to the neo-Marxists, big pharma, big liberal agenda, administratum. And that seems to be the singular connection that Black Panthers have to Black Lives Matter, right? Black Lives Matter being this sort of highly Sorosian, highly financed, highly bureaucratic associated neo-Marxist, but statist organization that's kind of was parading after the George Floyd protest. This was parading on not just Black rights or American rights, but on this idea of hyper racism that we call it, we're not supposed to say reverse racism, but there's something that's beyond regular racism. And I think that to an extent, we experience quite a bit of rights removal and hierarchy just because of the George Floyd attacks, right?
Where do I send my money? Like I'm sold. Like where do I donate?
To buy my book?
Fair enough.
Yeah, right.
I want to say that I did interview a Black Panther that calls Minneapolis Mordor.
Some of my best friends are Black Panthers.
I pretty good Black Panther
you know his name. I tried to
identify as a Panther, or
a little mixture of both. It's 2025. I don't actually ask questions.
Okay, so before we start getting into things, just for people that we'll just give a little rundown of the topic. So just bear with me. I prepared a little blurb here. So on May 25th, 2020, George Perry Floyd Jr. died during an interaction while in police custody in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The interaction took place during an arrest made after a store clerk at Cup Foods reported Floyd was using counterfeit currency. The next day, after the videos became public, the Minneapolis Police Department fired all 4 officers. Optics took priority over facts as the narrative of his death was twisted and weaponized, leading to global protest and riots in support of Black Lives Matter and police accountability, and against racism and the use of excessive force by police against Black suspects. Calls to defund and abolish the police increased, and protests became the first civil disorder event to exceed $1 billion in losses to the insurance industry. Eventually, a curfew had to be implemented, and the Minnesota National Guard had to step in. Although people around the country were locked down and unable to attend funerals for their loved ones, George Floyd had numerous funerals. At least one of the 2 autopsies showed apparently that he had died of homicide, and the officers were all charged and convicted in the matter, including Officer Derek Chauvin being sentenced to over 20 years federal as well as state charges. As a result of his death, the city of Minneapolis, which obviously suffered greatly in many ways after this, settled the wrongful death suit with Floyd's family for $27 million. Black Lives Matter gained millions of dollars in followers, while rioters shouting their slogans caused millions in damages. We've seen streets named after Floyd, monuments and statues have been erected, murals painted, as well as declarations of statewide moments of silence and George Floyd days in Minnesota. There's also been George Floyd-related legislation passed in Congress. Darnella Frazier, the 17-year-old who filmed Floyd's restraint on her phone, received a Courage Award in addition to a Pulitzer Prize citation. She then started a GoFundMe that raised over $700,000.
So can we clarify that you're pulling a lot of this from my book also? Or
is there a problem with that? I thought
not. I just want to credit. No,
okay.
Not at all. I just want.
May I continue then?
Yes.
So raised over $700,000 for her trauma. Staff of the Minnesota Star Tribune received a prize for their coverage of the protests as well, and essentially anyone in media from top to bottom benefited from the constant flow of these bleeding and leading stories. The death of George Floyd fueled the cultural shift of an already hostile society, which led to a vicious outburst. Now, just like Miriam mentioned, it seems that people have George Floyd fatigue. We have recently passed the 5-year anniversary of his death. Today, just some where are they now facts. Cup Foods is now called Unity Foods, which is located on George Perry Floyd Square, which of course is named after him, which reportedly does terrible business now. Officer Thomas Lane, who was charged, was released from federal prison in 2024. Officers J. Alexander Keung and Tao Theo were released near the start of 2025. Derek Chauvin was stabbed in prison during his time in prison and was moved to a different facility. Many hope Trump will pardon him. However, that does nothing for his state charges. So yeah, essentially the damage seems to be done in this case. Most of it can't be undone. So the best we can do is take research from professional journalists like Miriam, and spread this knowledge of these psyops, how to dissect them, how to identify them, and furthermore, how to prevent from being sucked in by them. So as Miriam mentioned, I pulled a lot of that stuff from her book. I didn't want to get into the deep stuff because that's obviously why we're here, but that's a general overview of kind of the situation. But obviously, your book shines a light on just about everything else that the media didn't want to talk about, that nobody wanted to talk about. So do you have somewhere where you'd like to start, Miriam, or do you want to start taking questions?
I would love to start. I'd love to just maybe tell the audience and yourselves how I got roped into this, because I feel that in retrospect, I was chosen to record this for the future records, given that we're living in a fake and gay world with lots of lies. And I'm a functional medicine coach. I focus on biohacking, and I've been covering transhumanism and jib jab for many years. I was in the mainstream. I'm best known for directing the film Vanishing of the Bees that was narrated by Ellen Page at one moment in time. And I was in the jungle. I was in Costa Rica with Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower. I took him there because I knew this Rona regime was impending, and got there 6 days before the entire country of America shut down. Although I saw it roll out in Central America in like a delayed response. So when George died, Zach is like, Mimi, can you come and choke me? And I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm doing the George Floyd challenge. So I tentatively kneeled on his neck. And then I said, well, if you really want to know how he died, you should call the medical examiner. So I was literally the first one in the country to call the medical examiner. I mean, I wasn't even in the country. I was in the jungle. I was in Costa Rica, but they told me I was the first one to call, and they said that it would take weeks and weeks and weeks. And then there was an outage in the jungle. And then when it came back on like a day later, there was already like disruptions brewing, and it was based on CNN posting preliminary reports. So even though I've known about 9/11, I've been on a spiritual path since 13, like I had no idea what I was going to find. And I was covering this and conducting a live investigation in real time, seeing information vanish, and that I may be the only one that befriended Maurice Lester Hall, who was with George Floyd, who interviewed Chris Martin, who took the 20. I'm the LMA FBI/informant who stabbed Derek 22 times, only wants to speak to me and actually wants to put me on his as a media expert. I'm like, that I really don't think that's gonna happen. And that the government has described me as a conspiracy theorist who directed a movie on bees and don't mind that psycho kook. So I did not know what I was going to find, and I didn't tap out. And then when I covered thoroughly the Derek Chauvin trial, which was a sham show, these people represent we the people. And if you were really paying attention, you would have thought Derek had won. I decided to write a book, and it took 4.5 years. And Zach would be like, Mimi, you're still focusing on George Floyd. And I'm like, in my mind, I'd be like, silly boy, that's how long real investigations take. So I also purchased all the footage with my own money, and it's edited and co-produced by Sean Hibbler. And that in itself was difficult to find a non-woke editor. Like on DocuLink, it's like where documentary filmmakers, it's a mailing list. They actually voted like they initiated to kick me off of the list. Like some white person wants to kick off the brown girl. I had another editor who knew my B movie, who's like, I just finished watching the body worn footage. She's like, I just finished crying. And I'm like, oh, you have to go and lay in your safe space. I'm like, really? Like, aren't documentary filmmakers dedicated to the truth? So I've really gotten into the bowels of George Floyd, and I've sat on a lot of the information that's not in the movie. This looks at everything from 7:30 to 9:30. I've watched the footage hundreds of times to see the glitches. And then the book, many of these like as a real journalist, many of these footnotes are now permanently scrubbed from even the internet. So I'll say that. Thank you.
So that puts even more value in your book, right? Because you've taken that knowledge and now you've put it into this form, so we can, we can still rely on it, and that's very important. It's very important.
I want to point out too that conveniently between the last 4 years when you were sourcing all that information and what, like a year ago, the Internet Archive got, quote, hacked and taken down. So now even the backups of those articles that no longer exist, the backups are gone too. So which is just, it's somewhat convenient.
I'm
not saying like George Floyd caused it, but
no, it's a very good point. And I do say that in my book, that even archive.org, because as a professional archival researchist who was in the Matrix, I mean, you could call Archive House and get footage. If you've seen Vanishing of the Bees, I sourced all the archival footage, and those days are gone. And so it does, to your point, I buy rare books. The rare books are very expensive, and this has been messed by 3 different publishers. So I do know it's for the future, long after I'm gone. I believe it's like how you make the sausage. Because, for instance, the $2 billion of damage, Catherine Austin Fitts says that's not a riot pattern. It's a real estate opportunity. And so I used a lot of my hunches, and all along Lake Street is a lot of effery in regards to drug cartels, money laundering. Why isn't it known in the media? It's like, well, where does that fake dough come from? I did a FOIA for it with the Secret Service. Like, I mean, this is like a deep state whodunit thriller. I grew up reading Agatha Christie and Hardy Boys. I'm a nerd, and for people who still read, I haven't gotten to doing with Audible, but because it's a big fat book, but it's a juicy book. And Daniel, if you know Daniel Estelin, he's the one who wrote one of the testimonials on the back, and I cite him in my book, and I speak about Tavistock. So if I may, I can just read a couple of the chapters. I mean, not just the headlines, the titles, not the full. So George Floyd, hot off the press. I Can't Breathe is Born Again. A Tale of Two Autopsies. Conga Latin Bistro, just watch the video. El Nuevo Rodeo and Maya Lopez Santamaria. Darnella Frazier, From Snacks to Star. The Summer of Love. Ozarks on COVID-19, Operation Counterfeit. The Politics Behind Prosecution, Keith Ellison. Revisited. The Sabris. The Sabris are the ones who own the El Nuevo Rodeo. Maya is just the front woman. Mr. Adam Redacted. Snitches Get Stitches. Blood Debts and Human Sacrifice, 6 Ways to Detect a False Flag Event. The Anatomy of a Psychological Operation.
Yeah, I haven't received my copy yet, but I have bought a copy. You did give me a preview of it, and it's great stuff. It really is. It's a very deep dive. Do you want to, I don't know, where do you want to go? Do you want to maybe talk about the autopsies? I know your book covers that a bit. I mean, there's a few things that we can talk.
I'd love to suggest a one point just to make sure we can get to it. You mentioned Freemasons. What is the ultimate Freemason connection with George Floyd?
Let's start there.
Yeah, I was actually going to say all the 33. So when I started, I kind of rolled my eyes at, this being Freemasonic. But then as I started doing my research, I bolded all the 33s. There's 254 instances of 33s, whether it's Squad 330 or that George Floyd lived on 3333 Alabama Street. It's like ad nauseum. Like there's one LinkedIn psychiatrist who supposedly treated George. And when I saw he had 33 books that he'd supposedly written. So that in itself, this is arguably a cornerstone ritual. The fact that it erupted under the theme of the twins. So it was in June, which is Gemini, Twin Cities, twin autopsies, Stephen Jackson and George Floyd. There's even in the footage double bikes in the background. So there is a lot of Freemasonic, and if you know the cornerstone, not to mention that Benjamin Crump is a Boule, not to mention that the building El Nuevo was Oddfellows, which is tied to the Freemasons, which I'm sure you three gentlemen can add to that.
My understanding was that the Oddfellows was for people that didn't want to join the Masons, but they still wanted to do Mason-like things, so they would join the Oddfellows, but that they were uniquely distinct in some ways as well.
I go into the distinctions and also the overlaps, that there were many members that were part of both. The building, which was a historic building, was burned down, where El Nuevo Maya Santa Maria, who's very prominent and was also on the board of the NFL. That was also there was another business that she owned that was near Freemasonic temple. She owned a mortuary, and I found not tombs, caskets coming via Vietnam. What did those caskets hold? Because this is a big operation, with the complicity of the government. I interviewed a man. It just so happened he was translating his book from Spanish to English, called Los Cartelas Non Existar, as I was coming to terms that the government uses the gangs as a cover. So that's kind of like just a little, I have a whole chapter on human sacrifice and the arguable theory that George was told, we'll make you Rodney 2.0, we'll immortalize you, and you do that thing that you did last year. You'll see in my movie that almost to the exact date, the year before, George Floyd gets arrested, and he doesn't say I can't breathe, but that's slipped in, and I make a case for him being an operative. So maybe you could start to see why I'm censored, because this has receipts and freedom of information, like a real journalist. And again, I didn't know how deep it goes. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, if for people who are interested in the topic and who are going to check the book out, I do highly recommend watching the movie as well. It just goes hand in hand really well, and you're able to see what's going on, because you do break it down very well. You go over everything in very fine detail. And for something like this, that's something that you need to see the visuals. So yeah, I do.
Thank you. I agree. It's accompanying, and the film, like, I'm banned even on Vimeo, so you can get Old School Dinosaur DVD, and yeah. So, and you can get
go to like a dark alley in order to get those DVDs too.
Maybe.
Like meet in a Walmart parking lot at like midnight. That's how these get distributed throughout the world.
No, I Merriam mail them myself. But it is pretty crazy because it's not like I came off the street. Vanishing of the Bees was #1 movie in the entire country. And, you know, to that point of dark alleys, I go by the Bee Lady because of my Bee movie. And the week of Black Friday, you know, back in the day, you could call the newsroom and say, I got a tip. Now it's Fort Knox. It's woke AF. And 60 Minutes and Fox was trying to get an exclusive with John Tursak, the man that stabbed Derek Chauvin. And I've said out loud, she goes by the Bee Lady, but she won't go away like a cucaracha. And I ordered a burger and I got a fucking cockroach in this little box. And there's no way they didn't see the roach. It was alive. And I don't know how it would. So that weird thing happened. Also, I have a mention of Curious George. Okay, before I tell you what happened. So I was in San Francisco with Zach, and there's a shot in my movie of George in Cup Foods, and he's holding a banana. So I said to Zach, this reminds me of Curious George. He goes, Mimi, that's racist. So I went to look at the the Curious George series. The last book in the series is called George Goes to the Hospital. George swallows a puzzle piece, which could be akin to the truth or drugs, and he gets sick and goes to the hospital, and the doctor is Dr. Baker, which just so happens to be the name of the medical examiner. So here we are around the time that I got the roach. I went online on my phone, and there was a Curious George network around the time that my book came out, but there is no Curious George, like it's not there now. So little things like that, they'd be like, oh, it's just a coincidence.
When you said the maybe operative thing, the first thing I thought of was when the original story broke and there was a bunch of alternative news kind of digging into the past of George Floyd, that it seemed that there weren't a lot of people that they could find that directly knew George Floyd in school or anything that kind of happened like in his actual upbringing. And were you able to find any childhood friends or teachers or anything?
No, but I did find that George Floyd is based on 3 different people.
Let's get into that.
So I'm
Larry Curly, right?
very detail oriented because that is where the devil exists. And I see patterns, luckily. My brain works like that. But and he's in my book. So one of the Floyds is Floyd George. And if any of you were following the story, they put red herrings in these psychological operations. So in August, there was a Timothy Jaffet attorney that made a big post on Facebook. I was still in the jungle. And he did give some interviews, but he wasn't going to speak to a reporter who actually knows the questions to ask. So instead, he gaslit me. And he said that the real George Floyd died in 2016. So I'm like, oh yeah, mofo, I'm going to pull all the fucking death records from Texas where you say that he died. I didn't find any Floyd George or George Floyd. And then I bought the debt from Cup Foods. So the Floyd family owes me $20 from one of the owners of Cup Foods. And then I did a FOIA for his social security number to see if this George Floyd existed. And he does. And he could very well be an operative. And I get into that. So there was no George Floyd, but I did find a Floyd George. The picture of him wearing the 88, also symbolic, is named Floyd George. So a boy who's now a young man who was at the Temple Wildcats game remembers distinctly that they called the name Floyd George because he remembered Boy George, and they laughed, him and his brother. So he went and initiated to contact on Facebook or try to call every person on that team. So there was one guy, and also I have screenshots in the book. His name is Sean. I won't say his last name, but he supposedly played with George Floyd. So I went to message him, and I'm like, I know that that's not George Floyd. It's Floyd George. And he says, I don't know what to tell you. Oh, you don't need to tell me anything. That was plenty. Thank you very much. So they created, because to your point, Jordan, when you said in the beginning, they've created streets. This is how they rewrite history, folks. The scholarships, universities, this money laundering to boot with, you mentioned Black Lives Matter. Well, is it a coincidence that Eric Garner also said, I can't breathe, and he was defended by Benjamin Crump, and also BLM was involved? So they recirculate the playbook. And now I must say, like you said, Andreas, there's so many psychological operations. Who has the time?
I do think that at this point too, I Can't Breathe has been adopted as like a cheat code, kind of the same way that sovereign citizenry sometimes has certain key phrases that whenever you're interacting with authorities, it feels like if I drop these certain phrases, then it shields me somehow. And it feels like I Can't Breathe is tacked on for the Black community, but it's the same concept of like sovereign citizen.
Yeah, that's
puts them on notice, right? Like, yeah, you better watch it. Like, this could go bad for you if you keep messing with me. I can't breathe. Remember what happened. And some cops will just back the hell right off, right?
Well, I want to say something ironic that people can all ask themselves. Does anybody know any details about the stabbing? Here we are, more than a year and a half later. And
that's what I wanted to ask you about. No, I don't have any details.
I will tell you that, well, yeah, I have the weapon. I have a whole stack from John Tursak, and you have to wonder if there's a movement to free Derek. Is Derek even alive? But when Derek went to the hospital, John punctured his lung, and he said, I can't breathe. Like, how ironic.
Sorry, what was the name of the stabber?
It's Stranger, aka John Tursak, and I've written Substacks on marymunane.substack is one of the only places that you'll find out. I haven't written about. I've talked about it on Sam Tripoli, the condition of Derek, because people don't know, and people don't know the real story of John Tursak, that he was recruited at 19 out of Pelican Bay, and was in LA as a law MA, having lived in Los Angeles for 23 years. And it was a political case with Maurice, and he got recruited by the FBI, Stranger, for $2,000 a month. And but then Maurice had political sway. It was they wanted to put this guy Chuy Martinez. He wanted to give him death penalty, which is prestigious as someone prosecuting, right? So he recruited informants from a opposing faction, and John was given promise of downward departure, which is a lower amount of imprisonment. And the indictments got 40 indictments. Those people got 10 to 20 years, and John Tursak got 30 years. So I concluded that he was no fan of the government because he went pro se, and I attempted to reach out to him. And despite the government's, dissuasion, we connected. And he calls me from jail. I get 5 minutes at a time, and he read my book. He read my book in a week. And because he couldn't understand why this little brown girl who did a B movie, like, what's going on? So he's like, Mama, B, RESPCT is like, I learned a couple of things. And then I basically said, so were you socially engineered? Kinda.
That was the response, was kinda?
He said yes. I mean, I'm saying kinda. Because when I asked him, is Derek even alive? I don't even know if I should say it on air because it's dangerous. So
you gotta say it,
I gotta say it. Well, I just asked permission because I don't know for the censors. Is that cool?
What do you think, Xirtus? We good?
Yeah, go for it.
He basically said they told me to keep him alive. So what would they do with me? You know, disposable on the checkerboard. And he's like, I want to make you my media expert. And I said, what do you want me to do with this information? Other than, oh, please sign to my Substack for $5. I used to get paid $2 a word back in the day. And he's like, I want to get you back in the game. I'm like, I don't want to be in the game. Like, I did this book. I'm resigned as a journalist. I'm focused on solutions. Like, for the audience, banned on Venmo, Vimeo, PayPal, GoFundMe, Instacart, Airbnb, Bumble. B-Lady gets banned on Bumble. Get it? Instacart. Like, I am the poster child for the fucking social credit system to come, boys and girls. Debanked, smeared on television, all for speaking the truth. Well, not only George Floyd, but like I said, medical freedom and the transhumanist agenda. I was one of the few to cover Charles Lieber, the nanotech king.
Can you still use your B credentials to get your foot in the door of unsuspecting, like woke audiences, where you're like, yeah, remember, like, I'm all about the bees, and just like slide in and then just start talking about George Floyd?
No, actually, I had a customer who's not even liberal, and I have to think outside of the box ways to sell my book, right? That I worked for 5 years. So I put a little flyer, and he's like, don't send me your liberal brochure. And he's from Texas. I'm like, liberal? I said, this is not about sides. This is journalism. And then he said, keep your opinions to yourself. And I'm like, you have an opinion. I have receipts. So, I did, I tried to find some interns. I'm in West Palm. I was smart enough to move right across the pond from Trump because I figured there's not going to be any funky fog. They're going to shit in his backyard. So I called a university. Oh, this was in St. Augustine. And this is a professor that teaches media. And he teaches his students that Wikipedia is a little bit co-opted. And then he looked me up on Wikipedia. And I was speaking about George Floyd. And he goes, well, if you're going to side with those cops, I'm going to take back my offer to get you interns. I said, instead of bringing me into your class to speak to your students? What? So, no, I don't think so.
It's wild how any of this could even be seen as siding with the cops. I guess questioning the official narrative in this case is siding with the cops, which is surreal.
Yeah. They don't pay attention. They don't actually seem to give a shit what's going on, right? They don't pay attention to the pillars of the story. They just see, oh, cop involved, black guy dead. Oh, cop bad, overload, right?
But it did have that reactionary event too, because I know a lot of people. I mean, this is completely anecdotal, but I feel like it does represent other stories that came out. But like, plenty of people that prior to any of the protest movements, the Black Lives Matters movements, that they were like not trusting of cops, like not necessarily pro cop. And then once all these protests start, it's almost like forcing people to get off the fence, and they start becoming pro cop, and you start having like I'd see like pickup trucks with mud flaps, but with like the thin blue line sticker on the back. Like, I know that sticker was not there 3 or 4 years ago. Like, there's a definite weird shift. It wasn't like the Overton completely jumped the track, but you could almost see it shifting in real time.
Dude, you can see it from like again, we were talking about Black Panther. Black Panther movie came out like a year or two before the George Floyd protests. And I think that's like when we talk about the Black Panthers versus the Black Lives Matter movement, like the beginning of this co-option of minority movements so that they could create, like, we have all of these minorities, we can use them and utilize them as pets for pet causes. That becomes and again, in chauvinism, like, what's the enemy? The enemy is chauvinism, which is different than misogyny necessarily, right? Chauvinism has to do with kind of statism, just generally. Like Chauvin was a general under Napoleon, right? So he kind of was just whatever Napoleon says goes. I feel like that's really what they represent. And it's interesting how the police force, we think of them as being I don't know. I think of the police as being often, at least at that time, very corrupt. There's a lot of corruption in inner city police that are dealing with racism, but also drug trafficking and George Floyd's associations with not just drugs, but pornography and everything in between. There's just so many levels to how it affected, like you said, the Overton window and the reflection back from we need to protect minorities into what's happening now, right? With ICE and everything. I think ICE couldn't have, the way things are going now couldn't have happened without the George Floyd situation and protest.
Agree. And the irony that Maurice, I called Benjamin Crump. Hey, would you like to take Maurice's case on? Nobody gives a shit about his Black life. And I sat in on the Zoom when they sentenced him. They sentenced him on the same day as Alexander Kang. Alexander Kang is a Black officer that was there. So it was morning, then 9:30, and I'm on the Zoom call because that's how we conduct Just Us now. And I'm like, where are all the parrots and prostitutes? So I have 3 screens, and someone knows I was following this case. So they write to me, ABC says 3.5 years for Alexander Kang. And I'm like, there's technical difficulties and the hearing hasn't even started. But I think now that I was they all knew what was going on. So I was the only one with Judge Cahill. And so then they said, we're gonna have a hearing at 3:30. So I'm like, let me guess, you're gonna get 3.5 years. Now in the normal world, if a journalist catches such a thing, that would, get retweets.
That'd be news.
Exactly. But it wasn't. Then, ironically, that same day, Maurice Lester Hall, the Black man that was with George that day, along with Shawanda Hill, he was getting sentenced. And I did a 2-hour interview with him. He was out, and then they seized him, and they trudged up all of these cases from 2018. So it's a very woke judge, and he had a retired lawyer that was willing to take him home and rehabilitate him, because Maurice thought he was really going to get a new lease on life. And what did they do? They gave him 15 years. So at the end, I unmute myself and I fucking Zoom bombed the courtroom, and I unmuted myself and I said, you are all a bunch of hypocrites. You made allowances for George Floyd's drug-addled life. How about this Black man? The whole Zoom call closed, and I was filming it on OBS. I went to play it. My voice was gone. So then I called Maurice's mom, and I'm like, did you hear me? So they managed somehow to scrub me from the record.
Wow.
Since we're talking about Maurice, I noticed that you dedicated the documentary to him. I guess I'm just curious as to why. Like, what's your thoughts on him? And
yeah, I
him a little bit.
So I'll say a little bit about Maurice, because I look at, like I said, patterns, and he runs away and he goes to Texas, and then they apprehend him. And I'm looking at the Pacer docket. So all of his priors all were sealed. And then I found the latest hearings. They found him to have the beginnings of mental instability. There's a term that I forget now. Intellectually challenged, something like that.
Okay.
So he was found to be intellectually challenged. And then the next day, he's on Good Morning America, like all intellectually challenged criminals, right? So I thought, is this guy a snitch? So I did a FOIA, and I had his phone number, and I call, and he picks up. So I didn't expect him to pick up. And eventually he's like calling me mama, and we really, like, I hit it off. So he went dark for a while in the beginning, and I'm like, oh shit, he probably realizes, like, I'm not toting this bullshit, because he says he believed that the racist cop killed him and not the drugs that he sold, or because they were doing drugs. They're both drug dealers getting high on their own. own supply. So he told me, Mimi, on piece of paper, I read like a piece of shit. And I said, I know. I thought you were a piece of shit. So then I realized that he was like pinned the tail on the donkey. You know, if the people don't believe the lies, well, we can just pin it on Maurice. So in the end, he went from being promised to be a key witness, which never happened. He pled the fifth, to having all of his formers, like some of them trudged up, and he got 15 years for a pimping case from 2018. So I speak to Maurice, and he showed me how only some Black lives matter. So I dedicated it to him because I haven't been able to. I mean, even on JPay, which is another fucking racket for prisoners, you know, like to send, I have to pay X amount of money to be able to send an email to him.
Oh my God.
I just felt, you know, his daughter was his child. Sorry, I actually don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but got taken away by CPS. And actually, Maurice, during that trial, handled himself so well. Like, I have PTSD and counsel PTSD, that he just handled himself very well. I wouldn't have done such a good job. And he's in jail, and he's like, you know, in self-development, like reading self-help books, and he has a very good outlook. Like, I would arguably say a better outlook than my own self on life. You know, but he doesn't see
Maurice.
like, yeah.
Well, yeah,
Like,
because he dodged a huge bullet, right? Like an enormous bullet he dodged.
Yeah. He could have, for a lot of
I
reasons.
mean, he got like old charges drudged up, but like you said, if the people didn't buy the, you know, that the official story, then he was option B. He was plan B for anything else going wrong. So I guess regardless, he's kind of, he lucked out in like a not completely fortunate way.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to see it. That's a good way to see it. And he has, at one point, he got a public defender, and I'm clairaudient, and I called the public defender, and I said, Maurice, this chick doesn't give a shit about you. And he, you know, then a couple of weeks later, he goes, Mimi, you were right. I'm going pro se. And then at the end, in the movie, I have his voice, and he goes, it's all part of a Masonic cult. And then on the phone, I said to him, it's not just the lawyers, Maurice. Yeah. So that's why I dedicated Jordan to Maurice. And I'll share also that George, the 4 funerals, which we can get into, that Teresa, one of the roommates, I interviewed her, this also in the book. And I said, Teresa, did you meet the Floyd family? And she said, no. Why?
Wow.
Of course not.
Because there were celebrities. And then I said to her, Teresa, do you think that Channing Tatum took it out of the goodness of his heart to go and show up to George Floyd's funeral? Or maybe he was locked down and he got a gig. Hey, I'll sport a face diaper, a baby blue face diaper. And then they can use the celebrities as the cover as to why you didn't meet the Floyd family.
Who showed up? Channing Tatum?
Yeah, he's at one of the funerals. You know, then there's another funeral with a gold casket, right? While you and me, boys and girls, you get to bury your loved one via fucking Zoom. This criminal gets a gold casket. Think about it. They changed our rituals, our death rituals, further changed our death rituals. Because they've been changed. If you think of ancient Egypt, I'm Egyptian Greek, and after my Kundalini, I remembered that I was part of the funerary process. That's why I've been so fascinated with death. Like, my first story as a journalist was going to meet the man that burns the bodies in Montreal at the cemetery. That we used to put myrrh and frankincense and ormus, and that now we put formaldehyde. So the ritual of death, yeah, it is crazy. It's sacrilegious.
So, I know you talk about this in the movie a bit, and you probably talked about it in the book. So, was George Floyd targeted? I mean, why not? Why wasn't it Maurice that had the cops called on him for using counterfeit money? Yeah, go ahead. What do you
Like,
think?
you think he's like, do you think he was like a particularly important, like, I mean, the fact he had pornography and music and everything like that, was he already an MK Ultra asset? Even,
and he lived at 3333. So like,
is it
Maurice
just
didn't live at
synchromysticism?
3333.
You know?
Well, I'll say this because I don't know exactly. I can give you my conjecture that 3333, that's a public housing, that is where you poach informants, and that when he was given 5 years aggravated robbery, that they made a deal with him. My hunch was like, I wonder if there's a drug corridor from Minneapolis to Texas.
For sure there is. Yeah. I mean, I think we should all know at this point that I saw a documentary on this, like Cocaine Cowboys 1 or 2. They talk about how they were bringing drugs north so far that people didn't expect them, and then bringing them back south. Right. So like, if you brought cocaine right into Texas from the south, they're looking at all the southern entrances, but they're not looking for it coming down the other direction on the highway. At least that was the idea. So if you could get it beyond Texas, and then you could bring it south, and Minneapolis is connected to so many important places. It's so close to Chicago. It's a place that it's smaller. Like the cities are completely different than the rest of the country state of Minnesota. So there's just so much corruption there. I mean, it's a drug paradise. Not only that, the connection for heroin, because of the Hmong Chinese, right? Because the Cambodian mafia. So like, the CIA was famous for having this overseas contingency war with China, where they dragged in the Hmong Chinese. And then when Kissinger made a deal with the PRC, all of these Hmong Chinese were going to be murdered and have their land stolen from them. So the CIA got them all out. And where did they take them? They took them to like Fresno, but particularly to Minneapolis. Minneapolis is a major spot. If you watch these documentaries on America's toughest gangs or whatever, they talk a lot about the Minneapolis Hmong.
There's a Hmong connection in this, but there's a Hmong. I mentioned the Hmong connection as well. Like, did you know that George was a truck driver? It's even in his Wikipedia.
Wow, I did not, but that's
but they don't highlight that at all, that he was a truck driver. And there's a photo of him with the twin pine trees, twin peaks, and he's in. And the story goes that he didn't get his license, that he was his dream, but that he shirked off the last test, which I think is BS. But the fact that they put it, I don't know if you're checking the Wikipedia page. God knows it's been.
I'm looking for it. Yeah,
a couple of times. It's definitely in my book.
I didn't find that yet, but I did find this wonderful picture of George Floyd in front of this file cabinet, which just to me is you gotta be careful when you look him up, man, because you'll find a lot of weird videos. That's all I gotta say about that. But
I did see the porn. I didn't, like, someone said, does he have a big penis? And I'm like, I did not wait till the effing. I just wanted to conclude that there's a porn. I did not get any, did not watch it.
Does he rap in the porn?
Yeah. Does he ever actually clean the pool? You don't get to find out.
Is it a musical pornography?
Does he fix the TV?
It's not. He shows up. This is the picture of the truck drive.
Dang, that's crazy.
Truck drive.
I had no idea. Like, that's a whole other dimension right there.
It is, right? Oh, there's a lot of dimensions in this, and there's a lot of layers. Like,
he's more relatable the more that you find out about whatever the persona is that you can find, right? It's like whatever version of him got put out into the media circus while it was going on. I almost just think it was so generic as to being able to rally behind it regardless of what your beliefs, but like, he seemed like a highly flawed and relatable character, more so than you knew about, years ago when this was big.
To that point, the footage of and the images of him being a hip, like being a rapper, right? And the connection with
Right, he had a
Steve
song with
Black.
DJ Screw, right? He was on a DJ Screw mixtape. That's
Yeah.
huge. If you're trying to claim like music credentials in Texas, to be on a DJ Screw mixtape is
Really?
essentially like, you know, like going platinum within Houston.
I had no idea. There is, yeah, there's gang. This is the psychologist, the psychiatrist that he wrote 33 books. That I was like, this is bullshit.
33 books.
Steve
Baller in the mall.
Rubinser, who supposedly.
Screw.
Wow, what's this?
This is
Oh,
the
yeah,
slow life
Story
and
about
fast death
DJ
of DJ
Screw,
Screw.
but when he collaborated with DJ Screw, it was called Big Floyd, I think. That was his rapper name was Big Floyd and DJ Screw.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So, you know, to your point of why him, I don't know if they groom these informants. They could be unwitting informants. I got all his mugshots. They're in the book. There's some of them that arguably aren't. But if you track his criminal career, it's to end up being a modern messiah. Not bad, Georgie. Not bad.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, drug distribution, theft charges, trespassing. He was the head of that violent home invasion, failure to identify to a police officer. But he's got all these 6 months, 10 months, 15 days, 10 months, years. He's got all these charges. And yeah, he's just essentially a criminal.
Well,
Yes.
but like not just normal, because a lot of times we lived in America, bro. There's like the 3 strikes you're out thing that they did in the 90s. So
Yeah,
the
like
guy who goes through all of this and doesn't end up in life in jail, and he's like constantly in and out of the system. Like the system, that's what we call tag and release. You know, that's very like
Charlie Manson style. They just
Charles Manson was
Manson's a perfect example where, but what they use is these like bottlenecks of the jail system to kind of like really pinpoint, whoa, this guy's got way more use to us outside the jail than inside the jail. They make these judgment calls. And I just got a theory to propose, a little abstract theory, but I feel like when Miriam, you're talking about, are they groomed for this? Are they like selected? It's like these viral videos you see on social media where someone drops like 5 marbles on a track and they're all like racing to like get to the end, and they're going through all these, and you're like, oh, the red one's about to win, and then like the black one comes up from behind. I think that's probably closer to what happens than just straight up grooming. It's like people find themselves in this track, and then once you're in that track, now it's just like, who's going to move into 3333, or who's going to be the one that gets a job working with Chauvin at the same nightclub? Well, that's going to be the guy. So like they find themselves into these little notches.
To that point, that when he got arrested and he's doing his whole shtick a year before you could see it in my film, that's when we got a winner, and he's getting high on his own supply, so he's dispensable. And I was on a Twitter space last week, and they didn't even know that George and Derek worked at El Nuevo. And like, how often do you hire a career criminal and an off-duty cop, and people don't know that Derek trained at the School of Assassins, and that's
interesting. That's it. Can we talk about that?
What was
but
that
I
called?
mean, just as an example, I'd say Death Row Records would hire criminals and cops.
Well, you could tell me what you know of. I mean, you may know more about the SOA School of Assassins, but I will tell you that Derek graduated not as a cop, but as a cook. And that I found a training day that's reminiscent of characteristics also in the book that was scheduled for May 29th, which ended up being the day that they arrested Derek. Derek was listed on that training, as were 2 lieutenants who ended up testifying against him. And then when I found, well, who put this training? Oh, it's the same technical college where you graduated, Derek. No callbacks. And then I went to look at the funders, and we got the usual suspects of Eco Health Alliance and Planned Parenthood. During the Rona, which was, they wanted their mail-in voting, there was a whole bunch of misappropriated funds. So that is very interesting to me. So he He was at the School of Assassins apparently at the same time where he was already hired as a cop. And then people know that he was also a real estate agent. And do you know that there was a tax evasion case? Do you guys know that?
No, I don't know about
No.
that. Nope.
Okay, so there was a tax evasion case that started in 2018. So think Martin Bird, Ozarks, but it's Derek Chauvin.
Wow.
And I went to interview the judge. So when I looked up at the judge, he had done some child trafficking cases, and so I sussed out that he would be, someone that I could talk to. And when it was, I believe 2021, it was May, he died in March. And when I went to look at his obituary, also in the book, he died at 66, left 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren behind. So
is all this stuff like, is it just like divine prophecy stuff that they're like making happen? Or do you think some of this stuff is like, is George Floyd dead? You know what I mean? Like, is he really dead? Is he just living somewhere in the Bermudas or having a nice life, like hiding out? Like, it's so crazy. It makes you wonder how much of this, can it be real? Is this all happening at all? Like,
now he's doing mixed tapes with Tupac.
Don't you feel like that in this right now? Don't you feel like the Matrix
is
glitching out?
The time. Yeah, this seems like it's like, I can't tell whether it's a Matrix. That's the question though. Is it a Matrix glitch? Or is this just like such a psyop that they don't, it's like a school shooting or something,
Well, but that's the number one question that I get. I do have his autopsy images. And if you see in my film, I don't know if you remember this, Jordan, but he says, I'm scared AF. When I stop breathing, it's going to go off on me, man.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
George says that.
There's a lot of important stuff that he actually says that you got to listen to in the movie.
And I told Sean Hibbler, who edited the film, I was a big stickler on the words because words matter. So you could see the words on the screen. And what does that mean? Right? I was told when I first called NMS Labs, the only lab that did the toxicology report, which became like Fort Knox months later when I tried to call again. They're the only ones who did a toxicology. In the federal trial of the 3 officers, which was really the police manual that was on the stand, there is a lieutenant that says, first of all, this was the duty to intervene exercise. So they're very realistic. We all know that now post Event 201. If anyone's read Bill Gates's book, there's a chapter called Practice, Practice, Practice. He details all the different scenarios. Sometimes people get hurt in these live role scenarios. And that when it comes to poisons, you would have to say, hey, I want to look at cyanide. So the Hollywood reporter, Michael Baden, that they rolled out, dusted off, that's done OJ, right, and Epstein, he had a sidekick, Black, for optics, but they never cut into the body. And did anyone think like what they transported the body to? Like, no, the guy Michael Baden never even looked at the body. It was Andrew Baker, and the medical examiner was steamrolled. He was threatened. But when I did a FOIA on the death certificate, I found a little code, and it's Acme 42. And when I went to look at that, it was multifactorial drug overdose. So that's what I mean. Like, no one's gonna have gone this deep because they're all prostitutes and parrots. I certainly didn't do this for glory, and I didn't know that it was gonna be dangerous. And it's like 3 different publishers fucked with me. I hope it's okay to swear. Excuse my potty mouth. Jordan.
I think we're good with that. I'm okay with it.
So 3 different.
Well, I want to ask you, Miriam, and I guess everyone else too, but Miriam specifically. And I say this a little bit in jest, but like knowingly, I'm saying it in jest, that the world has collectively agreed on the cause of death. So whatever it says on some autopsy report from a medical examiner professional doesn't really matter because everyone else has already agreed on what the truth is, right? So what does his say matter?
Well, to that point, we're arguably, I'm living in a different reality. I'm identifying it as Trinity post Kundalini. Like, I'm not in the Matrix. Like, I'm a recluse. I can't negotiate with like these crazy prices. I don't know the future. Like, I remembered after my Kundalini, I interviewed for my show. Someone said, haven't seen you for a while. I have a show, everybody. I've been a journalist for more than 25 years on Rumble called Lives Here. Andreas was on my show. So,
which was rad, by the way. We should do that again. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would love to do it.
About like transhumanism and like all kinds of stuff, like way before other people were asking about it, you know,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely. So what was I saying? Yeah, I don't post Kundalini. I interviewed Howdy McCoskey about exiting the trap, and I was like, oh my God, I've done this before. I've been killed before. Like, I resonate very much with the story of Hypatia. She is a guardian of the library. Her father's a mathematician, and the Christians revel in tearing her apart. Like, I think in this game of Westworld that I resonate with Cassandra of Troy. So I'm not interested anymore but to your point, we are living in different realities now. The divergence, the 5D, 3D split is happening now under the age of Aquarius. It's soul versus ego. There's no accident they created this bioweapon to target the heart, because guess what, folks? You can't raise your frequency without the heart. So the heart grid of the planet has gone down, and the heart is a beautiful, amazing organ. So I really, it's
vortex engine,
yeah. What would you say to that? Does it matter? Does truth matter anymore in this?
Well, someone talked about mental illness descended, like exactly, because it's like if your whole life, I mean, I relate to this. Like if people are telling you that what you have is a disorder, and that order is like drugging kids so they can go to school on amphetamines so that they'll be good at like being sold off to big pharma corporations in the military. I mean,
that's what they did to my grandpa and my dad, and look at them. It turned out
great.
great.
Yeah, look how great yeah, exactly.
Miriam, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about Mr. Adam, the manager of Cup Foods, and you talk about I mean, I'm sure you get into it in the book more, but you talked about in the movie about how he's seemingly, intentionally hidden from the story, the narrative.
Yeah, I want to say for anyone who has covered this, who has been tracking this somewhat, that there was a movie came out, The Fall of Minneapolis, a year after my film came out.
Yes, I've seen that.
And I'm exhaustive in my research, so I tried to reach out to Liz Collins, who's playing the role of me, alternative journalist. But she's married to Lieutenant Kroll, who is the Trump loving lieutenant that had to resign in this left-right dialectic. Right. And so the movie, I'm not saying anything bad about The Fall of Minneapolis. I don't have access to the police force. However, the movie who called these orders to abandon the officers? Not only was Precinct 3 destroyed, but Precinct 4, which is where you keep all the information for informants, and that was also torched. Now, I know the reporter that showed Liz Collins my movie. In my film, there is a scene. There's Tu Tao, who's the Asian officer, does this, and I leave it for the people. I play it
like when when you talk about like it's almost as if he's
and action.
Yeah, and action, exactly. Yep.
So having been on Hollywood sets, he's not good. So I was in San Francisco, and I'm like, Zach, can you look at this? I was looking at it from the Speedway camera across, and I was like, does that look like they're all moving in unison, like, and action? So he goes, no, Mimi, it's nothing. I'm like, okay, mofo, I'm gonna go to his camera, and I'm gonna look to see what it says, what it looks. So you actually see him do this, and then they all move in unison. So that shot was shown to Liz Collins. They rolled their eyes. Oh, conspiracy theorists. In the fall of Minneapolis, they put that one shot completely out of sequence as a little FU to Miriam and Sean, because who would be able to catch that? Right? So then, Liz Collins goes on Epoch, on the Epoch Times with American leaders. Like, they know who I am. I wrote an article for Epoch Times that went viral. They never gave me another gig. So when you realize, oh shit, like there's a bunch of fake and gay people around me. Like, I've reached a glass ceiling with my career. So it's, to your point, Paranoid American, it really is like, does it really matter when we have the truth? But I will tell you that it's about your soul. In the end, we're not taking any of this money, as they're tightening the squeeze on a lot of people. A lot of people are struggling. Well, it's a little more of a struggle when you've been censored and you're on a government crap list. So I don't know quite what the solution is. I think someone asked, what's the solution? The solution, first of all, to be very discerning. This is the part where there's a shitload of Agent Smiths, and who's who in the zoo.
So, so let's get back to Mr. Adam.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Cup Foods.
No, that's okay.
So Cup Foods is central. This path, I went down this path because I asked, in the trial, you see that Donald Williams, who's playing the chokehold expert, and Genevieve, who's conveniently an off-duty firefighter, because again, this is the duty to intervene, live exercise, that they released their 911 call. So I'm like, well, where is the main 911 call? So I go to clear it. And in Minnesota, there's a very convenient law that the person has to sign off. All right. So people think that the boy who took the 20 is the boy that made the call, but that's not the case. So I got the transcript. By reading the transcript, I deduced this guy does not speak English. This guy is being told, he's being managed as to what to say. So then I looked at the footage. Who could it be? Oh, I think it's that black boy who doesn't speak English, who's African, and who is he being coached? So then when I looked into Cup Foods, there is a whole big chapter about Cup Foods, and Mr. Adam is also arguably another operative. And Cup Foods was playing both sides because, remember, boys and girls, they did not get burnt down. And now it's Unity. Like you said, they sold it. So isn't that amazing that the store where George Floyd was killed did not burn down? And that the brothers, for whatever reason, one of the brothers who's prominent in my book was very forthright with me. And so Mr. Adam, who I do finally get on the phone in my book, he was like, never call the store again. So he did not want to admit his role. And no one on the face of the planet has talked about Cup Foods' role as the epicenter of this entire operation.
Right.
Does he still work at the new Unity Foods?
Well, they're owners. He's an owner.
So he still owns Unity.
They own the building, and they own a lot of things around there. And it's another interesting law. There was a prohibition against menthol cigarettes. Right. And one, if you remember, Maurice is holding a pack of menthols. So product placement.
Oh, were they menthol? Yeah. Oh, wow. And
Mr. Adam has a company that allows him, because you had to get a special license. But he also has a company, something menthol. It's in my book. And the brother who became the face of Cup Foods has a record for being a sexual predator. So the Cup Foods family is very interesting, and I go into depth. They gatekeeped this story very well. So you can imagine, they wouldn't want this to come out. And you know, think about it. We had the hearings for JFK, like, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and after how many decades? So the impact of this operation, you know, 3,000 different reforms, policing was changed. And like I said, the 3 officers, that hearing was really the police manual, where it was established that that was a chokehold move, that is in the manual. And apparently, according to John Tursack, that Derek even used that move on women. That apparently,
why discriminate, right?
Well, if there was a hot woman, he supposedly stopped her and then got her into a head move. And again, to the point of this being a duty to intervene. So the way it is, it's like the way it's designed is, it could be excited delirium. Why did they load and go? Why didn't they take him to the ambulance right away, right? So the whole point of a live exercise is to troubleshoot like an action. Like, turn to page 25 if you want this. So in my film, I show what happened in the ambulance.
Yeah. And it's a bit of a shit show in a couple instances.
They didn't air the proper bag. They didn't do proper ventilations. They don't know how to effing use a striker machine. Are you guys extras?
Right. I was just that was kind of like getting into the next topic I want to talk about is these crisis actors. So there was an umbrella man, right, which you can talk about, who, you know, there was, just like JFK, there was an umbrella man. I think there was an umbrella man in a different Black Lives Matter riot related thing. I think there's other umbrella men, but are there any other of these narrative crisis actors? Like, for example, what's the deal with Courtney Ross? Was she actually a girlfriend of him? Some people say that, like, she popped out of nowhere.
Courtney Ross. I want to show you, if I can, a picture for Courtney Ross.
Okay.
This is I did this side to side because Courtney Ross is a Marvel character. I don't know. I see a similarity.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You are being very complimentary right now to Courtney Ross.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's hilarious.
Okay. Well, she's playing. Maurice told me they weren't together, and so she's playing the white girlfriend. Shawanda, arguably, was also a girlfriend. He liked heavy-set women. Of course, they were not together. Courtney is also tied into the Dwayne, whatever she was his teacher. Dwayne Wright.
Oh, sorry, Dwayne Wright.
Courtney Ross is a comic book superhero girlfriend from Captain Britain from the. That's weird. All right, there's something to that for sure.
Yeah, because I looked at a lot of these names to be like, are these names BS? Again, just following my hunches. So Courtney, at the end, Maurice is on the scene and he's talking to Shawanda, and you could hear, he goes, is there a white woman? Is she Shorty? Because he called her Shorty. So I don't know if she showed up at the end, but at 10:30, this scene became a crime scene. So one of the characteristics of a false flag is if it becomes a multi-jurisdictional investigation, because I don't think the FBI would show up for any of us. I don't know, but that's what I'm venturing to guess. So that's with Courtney. I talk about how, she performed with her tissues and her tears in court, and people just eat that crap up, I guess. To me, it's like fake and gay. Wow. And by the way, I want to just say that I had an infiltration in my company, Honey Colony, by woke witches. And arguably Procter and Gamble. And in the end, they wrote to me and they said, I'm not even joking. We had a meeting and they said, I'm a biohacker, and they said we could do a partnership with Procter and Gamble. And then in my head I was like, what the F are you, like, why don't we do it with Pfizer while we're at it? What are you talking about? So that was a moment where it's like, you know, but in the end they wrote an email and they said, one of the reasons we're quitting is because you are offensive to the gay community by saying fake and gay, which, by the way, Sam Tripoli, I'm popularizing, but I heard it from Sam. Even Candace Owen has said that. To which I said,
I've heard a lot of people say that. But
I got a gay friend. My gay friend, one of my friends is super gay and super real. He's real fuck, and he says fake and gay all the time. So I don't know.
Well, I said to them, well, I'm the writer that knows entomology. Let me just tell you that gay comes from the 12th century Germanic origin and means full of mirth and showy. And if anything, homosexuals should be upset, and I'm not bowing to the virus of wokeism. I can't even believe they put that on paper.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. But, you know, I mean, like, woke witches and honey and bees do kind of go together, right? Like, that's...
Do they?
I mean, I'm not blaming the bees, but I've noticed, like, luckily now there are a lot of vegan, anti-bee, you know, they're doing all the they're all upset about bee exploitation, I guess is the thing now. So they don't really understand that bees make honey without, like, I've seen videos from these Australian city girls where they show, like, just torturing a bee. And
really?
You know, like, this is how they get honey. And I'm like, that is not how they get honey.
Wow.
No one's like Guantanamo being some, like, pulling the bumble, like, essence out of the, like, this is what they think. This is what
Well, that's how you get the adrena honey.
The adrena, yes,
which is the best. That royal jelly, you really got
that royal.
The royal jelly is made from their adrenals on the side of the. So the way they collect the royal jelly is they put the head of the bee against glass, and they put pheromones on the other side to secrete. And if you pluck a honeybee's stinger, she's going to die. 90% are sisters. The boys don't have stingers, and that's offensive to me. To torture.
No, I'm glad we're on the same page. It's ridiculous what people think. Yeah, because most of the time it's like what you're doing when you make honey. Because I tell people you shouldn't be making honey, you're exploiting bees. I've seen this with hippies in Santa Cruz. But really, you know, you're helping bees out by giving them a hive. If you make like the Buckfist box or something by your, you set it up so that they have a place to be. Bees.
Place to be. Well, okay. Well, we can talk about the Langstroth hive compared to like a free wielding hive. And then at one point they had like the honey on tap. It was like one of the most successful Indiegogo, and I'm not down with have like beer. And to just tell people that in her 6-week lifespan, a honeybee will only produce a quarter of a teaspoon of honey in her 6 weeks. So the next time you see a jar of honey, like, to have, you know, it's sacred. It used to be sacred.
Totally.
Yeah.
Since you're kind of a bee expert, and this might sound trivial, but it's a genuine question. Because I live in one of these neighborhoods where maybe every 3 or 4 blocks, there's just a family that's like, we're going to just harvest bees and sell honey now. And they'll just put like a little sign in the yard that's like, come knock on the door for honey. And I always wonder, and our next door neighbors did it, and then they like moved, but they didn't like clean up after themselves. So there was just this like abandoned like beehive that then spread to all the. But my question is, if someone's doing this, if someone in like a residential area is collecting honey and selling it, don't I deserve a little bit of that cut? Because those bees are coming into my yard and taking pollen out of my flowers, right? Or is that not how that works? Like, it shouldn't that be communal honey?
Well, that they could have a communal hive in the communal garden, but then you could get into capital. Where do you live that they have?
I'm in Orlando, but it's just in a regular neighborhood subdivision. And yeah, there's like multiple people in this neighborhood that one person did it, and someone was driving by and they're like, honey, what a great idea. We're going to now harvest bees and generate honey. And it would just be a fun little project.
It's not easy to to extract the honey, and you have to be careful. So I don't know how they're doing it. But there was a big revival after Colony Collapse was announced, and with the help of my film, like in Los Angeles, it was illegal to keep bees until my film came out, and then there were some small nonprofits that used my film and raised, because back in the day in LA they were Africanized, and they just kill them. And a lot of people say that they're like rescuing the bees. Like I've caught people killing bees when they're charging hundreds of dollars and saying they're saving them. I've caught them maybe 3 times in Los Angeles. Actually, even more, like charging the neighbor a whole bunch of money, hundreds of dollars. And then when I go to inspect, they're just killing the bees in a jar, in a tub. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I'm in Florida too. It's pretty cool that, like, I don't think I've had bees in LA in my patio, and they went feral and they stung my neighbor, and I had to give them away. But I wasn't keeping them for honey. I just to have the bees around is amazing.
Yeah, it's so good for the flower. Like if you really think about it, Paranoid, your flowers and your gardens are highly improved from pollination. Like you'll see far better gardens just because bees are bringing the pollen back and forth. I know you do.
I just want a little taste, man.
It's just a little taste off the side, you know.
Well, it is yummy. If you could go and poke your hand in the hive. But if they are Africanized, they will come after you.
When it comes to honey too, I'm a little bit apprehensive because, like, let's say one of those community-based. I know part of it is you're supposed to eat local honey because it has all sorts of local ingredients and like nuances that might protect you from things going around in that small little like localized ecosystem, right? But also, I know all these neighbors are using Roundup and they're like washing their car and getting all this. And from what I can tell, there's no filtration process that the bees put this honey through, so that if they're collecting pollen and nectar from, you know, Roundup sort of gardens, then you get Roundup honey at the end of that. And the bees don't fix any of that process. They just carry it along.
Absolutely. I mean, in Vanishing of the Bees, I show one kernel of pollen with up to 11 different pesticides, fungicides, herbicides that, when together, become 1,000 times more toxic. They synergize. And, you know, the idea of what's in the honey, all those, you know, hotels or whatever, they're all using, like in the film, I talk about funny honey, because the imported honey is like they put lactose or they put antibiotics or they put corn syrup. Like at one point I went to a function and they had like a Trump bear, and there's like a booth of like patriot beekeepers, and that was not real honey. It was fucking corn syrup mixed with something else. So not even to know anymore, which is so appropriate in this artificial age that we're ushering in, to know what honey tastes like. But you're right. You're absolutely right. But it's the same thing goes. The bees will fly up to 5 miles, so you can't control where they'll go. And they're flying dust mops. So they are environmental indicators for real, yo.
Interesting. Well, I'd love to have you back to talk about the bee stuff if you're still into talking about that. But let's get back into Curious George for a little bit more.
Curious George.
Can you, just for people who aren't aware, the umbrella guy, can you talk
about I'm sorry, yes.
No, it's okay. It's all good.
So the umbrella, like, I didn't know that it was in the JFK. I forgot. So the extent of the umbrella man in my book, I mentioned a sentence, and I spoke to someone in the city council that confirmed to me that was a authority, an officer. So that's the extent. I do remember the footage with the pizza boy that was near him too. Do you remember that? Do you remember the guy, the pizza kid, the black young kid that follows the umbrella man? Do you remember that?
I don't think I do actually. Why you call him Pizza Kid?
Because he's holding a pizza.
Because he's holding the
He's
pizza.
holding a pizza box.
I don't remember that. No.
Yeah, I don't know if you could find. I mean, at this stage, with all they scrub, but after he goes and takes the umbrella, and he bangs whatever initial store, which I don't remember. I don't know, it's a AutoZone, a Target, and then there's a young black boy that follows him out, but then it looks like ultimately that they're friends. Wow, I don't know, where could you find that in this day and age? Twitter? I don't know.
Sorry, find what, the footage?
That footage, if you wanted. Does anybody remember? Anyway, that's Jordan, what I recall about the umbrella man.
Okay.
Yes, I was on Tinfoil Hat, and then my entire website, Honey Colony, went down, which was fun. When you're attacked by thousands of bots.
Just really quickly, Travis F says George Floyd had a Freemasonic tattoo across his chest. Did we cover that?
So it's in my chapter on blood sacrifice, human sacrifice, and blood debt. But yeah, he had a double eagle emblazoned on his
wow,
on his chest. Yeah, I think there might be a picture of it. And I want to say I also found hush money, which I get into in the book. I found a $5 million judgment order to a baby mama and a child that I believe were told to, here's some money, we're going to cut you out of the narrative. Because George would have to be making $1.7 million a day. When I did all the addition for the back pay, it was like a whopping $46,000.
From George was making this money? I'm sorry?
There's a real baby mama and child in 2008. And there was in 2020 a judgment order for $5 million. And I think it was Hushman. There you go.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, and he would have had to be. He would have had to have been making that money.
He would have had to be making 1.7 to justify, but where, he wasn't making that money. The initial order in 2008, he was at Lynchner prison, and the baby mama was trying to get some money. So I believe that because they put front and center Pink Floyd, the girl. And she was also on murals. Like I said, I think Joey B sniffed her, like for real, when she went on flight 1, the plane to go meet the president. So I'm sure, Air Force One. So I'm sure Joey B sniffed her. And was she really the daughter? I don't know. Was Steven Jackson the real father of that girl? But he had there's 5 children that I found. So he
related to George?
Yeah. And only 2 of them make it into the press. The son, here's the shot of the menthols with Maurice.
Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, there we go. I remember that.
Yeah.
We should mention Newport does sponsor this show, so make sure to grab a pack of Newports on the way out the door.
That's right.
9 out of 10 doctors.
If you need to smoke out the bees, you can use menthols.
Exactly. It's good to smoke the bees. What was I going to say? There's something else I wanted. I just lost it. Oh, product placement. So there was a guy that I interviewed for my book that said to me that, and maybe you've talked about this or you've heard of it, Lucille Ball, so Lucifer Ball, that the Desi Arnaz are part of helping put these psyops together.
Totally, yeah. They were running a communist parties in Hollywood in their houses, right? It was a major thing. They brought them into the McCarthy trials to talk about it, and
Wow.
yeah, there's a whole thing there with the Cosa Nostra and Frank Sinatra and Desi Arnaz, because I think Desi Arnaz upset Cosa Nostra and they wanted to kill him at some point for making the Italians look bad, like Italian defamation. But he had befriended or more the wife of Frank Sinatra. They might have had an affair, right? So she was able to like keep him from being killed or being, have the hit put on him. And then the association with getting the Kennedys into presidency, like from all the connection with the Democratic Jacksonian Democrats into the Catholics with the 1950s 1960s Catholics and the Fitzgerald Freemasons, Scottish Rite Freemasons in Canada, the whole connection with MK Ultra to them there, and Lucille Ball's grandfather, right? Plus, okay, and the Bay of Pigs with JFK to Desi Arnaz from Cuba. There's a lot there,
and they plugged cigarettes too.
That's true. Yeah, they had commercials for cigarettes all the way through.
So who knows? Yeah, when I found out about, I was like, oh my God, Lucifer Ball. Wow. Yeah,
there's a lot to that lady that they just make her sound like she's simple.
Yeah, that's wild.
So I know this this case has lots of like myths and misunderstandings. Like there was the whole Floyd was crying out for his mother before he died, which isn't true. He was calling out Mama, which, if I'm correct, I'm not mistaken, that's the nickname, right, for Courtney Ross, right?
Supposedly she was saved as Mama in his phone.
Okay.
Very Oedipin.
There was thanks for pulling up the tattoo again. That's pretty wild. That's a pretty wild tattoo. There was, of course, the whole Derek Chauvin neck, knee on the neck, which, you talk about camera perspective bias in the movie, and I'm sure you talk about it in the book. On that point, am I mistaking cases? Did they try and hide the manual after the fact during the trial, or am I thinking of a different case?
Well,
I might be thinking of a different case.
I'm not sure about that, but it was who covered the federal trial of the three officers. But as a journalist, I wasn't there, right? So now it's secondhand smoke, secondhand journalism. So they tell you have to sign up to a pool reporter. So I signed up to all the effing pool reporters so I could get as many notes as possible. And then I connect the dots. So then there was a journalist. I started my career at MSNBC in Burbank at Channel 4 when the internet, it was in charge, the advertising department was in charge of the news. It wasn't the news desk. So I called this NBC reporter at KARE 11, and this is during the federal trial of the three officers. And I said, that's not George Floyd's car. And he's like, I know. I'm like, okay, to myself. I'm like, okay, so stuff that you're not reporting on. And then he said to me, my boss told me not to speak to people like you.
Oh my God.
So I say, people like me? What's people like me? Real journalists? And who's your boss? A mafioso?
Who's your boss?
People like me? So really, it's such a circus show. Who are these journalists? And another thing is if you remember when they dribbled the evidence out. That's part of a psychological operation. So if you remember in August, that's when the body-worn footage dropped of George Floyd. And when I saw it, I was in the jungle. And I was like, what grown man acts like this? This is really, right?
Yes, I know. It's just yapping away about all sorts of nonsense and, grunting like a, I'm Curious George, and obviously he's hopped up on drugs. I mean, at one point, where is it? He says, my stomach hurts, my neck hurts, everything hurts. Give me some water or something. Like,
well, to the point of what I said, if he took something else and he was told, we're going to make you Roddy 2.0, you'll wake up.
right.
But then something goes wrong, which is why Derek shows up at the hospital. Like, the hospital where he met his now supposedly ex-wife, Kelly Chauvin, worked at Hennepin County. And even when you look at a live exercise, a lot of times they use rookies. So the firefighters are rookie. The stab room is what it's called, where it's actually known for resuscitation. And the guy that treats George is also a resident, Genevieve. Like, so there's a lot of, and all the officers, let's not forget, they had worked 3-4 days, Alexander.
3 or 4 days. Yeah,
this is another evidence of, like, this is a live duty to intervene. And then they changed a lot of laws unbeknownst to most Americans, and they used it as, law and order. Let's track and trace. So for the Derek Chauvin trial, Hennepin turned into this dystopian scene. Everybody was aware that the witnesses were afraid for their lives, and it was decided in record time. This was a sham show trial, which is sad, because it's just the evidence of the corrupt legal system.
So, yeah, or like complete fake psyop on every level, just in order to provoke everyone. And like at a time when America was being shut down and the world was being shut down and all travel was being shut down and everyone was being, it was all of the factors of the 2020 world, the post 2019 world, all of it was happening. And, QAnon and everything else. It was such an important manipulation of the entire, and even like the riots helping the insurance company claims for these corporations that weren't having their products sold so they could clear stock and they could start over. And then the destruction of the mom and pop shops. There was so many, it was just in every level, like in destroying the pharmacies, right? Because like Brittany at the time when I was living in Minnesota, her sister worked at one of the pharmacies, and she was just told, you have to run. She was like a Democrat supporter of all the blue things, supported the George Floyd protest, but they're like, yeah, you have to get out right now. And like, as she just like, she wasn't even in the main, I think like she was like a one town over or something like that, but they burned down the pharmacy and stole everything in the pharmacy. And there wasn't that like that much access to like opiates or anything. It was like diabetes and blood pressure medication. So if you were rich and white and you could go get them from another town in your nice Lexus, then that's great. But if you're like an inner city Black person with diabetes or with high blood pressure, you couldn't leave and you didn't have a car. You're stuck in this town without any access to your insulin or your medication, and you're going to die because of the complete shutdown of all infrastructure and the destruction of all the pharmacies. And that was just completely, who suffered the most? Like the people that allegedly were supposed to like say that their lives matter. Well, they're the ones who are going to suffer from the destruction of the entire town, like any riot.
I want to say that in March 2020, people don't know this, but the FDA, FTC, DOJ launched Operation Quack Hack. And I had done a man on the street with Zach Voorhees for Alex Jones. I had told him, let's do a man on the street on the Rona. This is before anybody knew that this was going to be what it was. And I called it the virus that didn't cry wolf, because I knew. And in the man on the street, Zach plugs Alex Jones's silver, but I sell silver. So we were in the jungle. They went after Mark Grenon for chlorine dioxide. Mark was on Alex Jones. He got banned from band. Like, they took the interview off. They went after Alex. Then they went after me as part of being in the crosshairs. So they shut me down. Like I had some financial person assessing my company, and after the Procter & Gamble infiltration and said, "What was happening? You were making so much money." I was making $3,000 a day when I first started. Like, I built $1 million company from scratch. And then with the Google Medic update, plus the Rona regime and plus bad actors devastated the company. So they shut down a whole bunch of people. For me, it was vitamin C. And what's your transgression? I use the word prevention in the same sentence as coronavirus. And they, so just like it was all a coup d'etat against so many things. Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, I just thought, just in case anyone doesn't know, because you're just talking to like these, inferior fools that we are. Like, you're kind of a big deal, actually. Even. Yeah.
Well, it's been co-opted, my Wikipedia page.
That's how you know you're a big deal. That's basically the sign of success. Is that?
Oh, you said it was narrated by Ellen Page, but this says Elliot Page. Why are you spreading? Why are you trying to shoehorn in like actual actresses? Who's this?
Shame
Who's
on
this
you for
idiot?
traveling through
recognize
time.
that guy.
Who's that dude?
On my poster, like, Hollywood did not. I'm dead naming because, like, you want to give me the money to change my poster. So I don't know who went into the Wikipedia page, but I will tell people that Ellen wasn't even a lesbian when she narrated my movie. So to become the poster child for the transgender agenda, and knowing that she didn't want to be sexualized, but yet on GQ goes and shows her scar tissues under her boobies. Yeah, dude, I'm
on Wikipedia right now. I just want everyone to know I'm not like dead. I'm not doing any dead. What do you call it? Dead naming or dead gendering? Yeah, dude, I'm innocent here. I just went to Wikipedia and these are the pictures that I got to work with. Okay, but you can definitely see the difference between, like, when you're happy and young and when you're, this is why you should never be a man, because the girls just want to have fun and boys suffer. It's, look at the smile and look what happens. Just don't be a boy. It's hard. All right, I'm just letting you all know. It's not what's cracked. It's not what's quacked up to be.
Don't take hormones. I wanted to go back, Jordan, and say when the footage of George was dropped, okay? It was dropped by the Daily Mail. Only later did a hunch. I'm like, I wonder if the Daily Mail is attached to Tavistock, and then found out about Lloyd George, not Floyd George, Lloyd George.
Wow.
But so it's August. I'm in Costa Rica, and I'm like, how did that guy get? I'm still like a little bit naive. How did that guy get the footage? I'm gonna track down the Daily Mail journalist. So by the grace of God, the man who dropped the story for the Daily Mail, I used to sell Vapid Hollywood when he used to work for In Touch, like literally get hundreds of dollars for a sighting of Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. Like, because I was in the mainstream and I didn't know any better. And I was from Montreal. And it's like, so I had the gig of, like, the last time I saw this guy was at the Chateau Marmont, selling him some Hollywood whatever. And so I track him down, and this is August. I didn't know half of the stuff that I know this, but I did say, hey, if you notice the light doesn't change it's like 8:30 at night, but the light doesn't change. And then I talked to him about the destruction and the bricks. And then he said, what is it about you conservatives and George Soros? I don't really care about George Soros. He's just a businessman. I never told him I'm a conservative. I never described myself as a conservative.
You're a Catwoman conservative, I think is the way to put it.
So yeah, maybe because I did get to peer into the conservative world because of Zach Voorhees. And
yeah, I don't really. The whole thing with conservative is so weird. Like, especially it's dated as a term, because conservative was such a reaction to the hyper liberal, transgendering ideology and movement, Black Lives Matter, everything. But now we're back to conservative meaning like Christian right. You know what I mean? Like this sort of hyper nationalist Sharia thing. So I don't think like hyper liberal or hyper conservative is really the answer either way. It's basically better just to be who you are, somebody who's skeptical and asks questions and doesn't just Roman salute whatever flag they put in front of you, whatever color it is, right? I think it's good that you're constantly skeptical, and that's always the answer.
Is it overly simplistic to consider the conservative or Republican right wing right now is just the evolution of the anti-Masonic party? No.
I mean, if you think again, I think the big pharma is conservative. So like the Obama and Biden, they're conserving their values. Like the word is such an abstract that's anchored only to whatever is in the du jour contemporary zeitgeist. So really, like MAGA, was MAGA conservative or was MAGA reactionary? Clearly it was reactionary. So it's not fair to call that conservative. And now that it's in power, you're starting to see what they call like woke right. You see more and more of this kind of Christian Sharia. Woke right is, I think, it's happening. It's like this, because once something becomes the secular mainstream, then things can be really great when they're out of bounds. When somebody's not in charge, they're usually pretty polite and they're all about, hey, let's try to make things work for everybody. As soon as they're in power, then they're trying to destroy anyone who's in their way and building moats. This is what happened with the Liberal Party, right? After the neoconservatives and Bush and Nixon, etc., the liberals really kind of presented themselves as this sort of passive, socially conscious force until they started bombing Kosovo, took over the world. There's no way to pretend that one or the other is somehow so adjacent from each other. And there's always the people in the middle who are saying, I don't really feel like going along with the program. And that's, I think, your biggest guilt is that you just don't go along with the program. That's really hard to work in Hollywood if you don't go along with the program. That's kind of how they get you.
Well, absolutely. I think especially post Rona, I had a friend that was a grip, and I've had a couple of boyfriends that have been grips, and it was 2020. It was 2021. The jab had come out. I wrote a story about the emerging caste system. If you saw Songbird 2023, so what they were really doing is, let's say the studio would get $75,000 a week for nostril raping, aka PCR test. Okay, so if you were on set and you had whatever the Rona was and you were immune, then you got that week. They pocketed the money from that muni, which is the term that they use in Songbird 2023. So when I wrote the story, my friend Joe blocked me, and then a year later, maybe 8 months later, I wrote to him. I was like, "Hi, Joe," and he's told me, he goes, "Have you read The Great Reset? Have you heard of what's his face, the head of the transhumanist agenda, whatever?" And what's
Carl
his name?
Schwab?
Yeah, he goes, "Have you heard of Carl Schwab?" I'm like, "Yeah, I read Great Reset in 2020." I said, "Does that mean that we could be friends again?" So what he was doing in LA, is he was going to Whole Foods and he would look straight at the person and go, "I'm exempt," and somehow they would let him go in without, like, I don't know what they were doing in LA.
Yeah.
I can tell you that in San Francisco, I had to sit outside like unvaccinated vermin in a restaurant, and then I had to wear face masks in yoga. And then when the jab came out, I said, "Hey, I called one studio and I said, I have a doctor's note." And she's like, "I'm sorry, we have to follow the regulations." And I said, "I hope you know that you're following the regulations for communism. Now I'm a fucking stay." And I hung up and I bought a one-way ticket to Florida. I don't know. San Francisco was, when I came back from Costa Rica, it was September, and I went to walk in, I don't remember what park, and I'm like, oh my God, they have the chalk circles and there's people in them. Like, did you guys have that? Chalk circles in outside parks with people in them?
I didn't see that because Minnesota,
yes,
luckily,
yes,
I just got out of the
yes.
city and now it's okay. But you had chalk circles, really? Like that's
Yeah.
what you're supposed to say?
I was in Toronto at the time. Yeah, I remember the chalk circles. Oh my god, ridiculous.
Florida had our share of silliness too. I remember for a good year, all of the grocery stores were one-way aisles. Like you couldn't go a certain direction down one of the aisles. You had to go. Like thankfully, someone figured out that the Rona wasn't able to jump over the aisle dividers somehow.
Ridiculous, man.
I remember
when I
the
was
6-foot rule came from like
Well,
Scotland in the 1830s, which was
It's
pretty
because
funny.
pangolins are so short, I think.
What do you mean, Andreas? What do you mean it came from?
So they had this thing of like 6 foot of separation, which is really like it's pre-meter. It's from England or Scotland at some point. There was, I think, like a typhoid epidemic or something like that in the 1820s or 1830s, and they didn't really know what was going on. But so some scientists at like Cambridge or one of the Edinburgh schools or something like that came up with this idea of people should stand 6 feet away from each other just to keep germ theory, because it's like early germ theory that will keep you safe. And this is how things work. If someone says, it becomes like case law, like 100 years later, like they did this again in 1919. And so 80 years later, they use it again. Like basically the 6 foot of separation rule had nothing to do with any modern science. It wasn't something that had been studied or tested or anything like that. Same thing with, the mask was funny to me because I actually made t-shirts with TeePublic for Xirtus, and I thought I should just be making masks too. Why not? If everyone wants to wear masks, but you'd be walking around. I was in West Virginia, I remember. I see a guy with a vape, and he's wearing a mask. He pulls it through the mask. He's breathing it through the mask, and then he exhales it through the mask. So it's using the mask as a filter, I guess, but nothing's being filtered. There's just like, he doesn't even need to take off the mask to vape or to inhale or to exhale. It's going through the freaking mask because it's not a filter. It doesn't do anything except look cool if you have Xirtus on your mask. Buy your COVID mask from Xirtus.com.
I want to point out too, Guinness Book of World Records says that the farthest human spit can go 110 feet. So the 6 feet of distance has absolutely no real bearing anywhere.
I can totally see you doing
arbitrarily.
I can see you spitting as far as George Washington threw a coin across the Potomac. That's like a.
I saw it as 6 feet, the resonance of the heart that to keep us away.
Yeah, there's definitely emotional damage to it. It's horrible looking at what they did to kids. I saw tons of kids that were 5 years old, grown up in that time, who've never seen a smile, weren't allowed to interact with their family, were kept away from hugging each other at school, couldn't play in the dirt, and we were told not to go into the sunlight. The one place that was allegedly good to kill things is the sunlight. I don't know. Let's not ruin a good thing here by talking about reality. But yeah.
Well, to point out too that was the ultimate way to show all these kids who really wears the pants in his family, and it's the state. It's not mom or dad. It's this foreign abstract power that's telling mom or dad that you're not allowed to go and like see anyone. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not us. We would let you go, honey. It's this other thing. So all these kids learn like, oh, mom and dad have no power here. It's this other thing that has all the power.
Before we start to wrap it up,
obligatory picture of you with bees all over you, just because.
May I share a little bit about that, how that came to be?
Yeah, and also please sell a bee calendar just with different.
Someone could be a calendar. I'd love to. Well, what happened was when I started making Vanishing of the Bees, I was afraid of honeybees. I told myself by the time, which was 4.5 years, we finished making the film, that I was going to commune with the bees. I remember the first time I went into a bee yard was in Chinatown in Los Angeles, and I was like fully suited up. So toward the end, after the finishing of the film, I had this image of being covered in bees, and I went to the beekeepers, And they said, well, you got to get yourself an insect wrangler. And I'm like, okay, I will find an insect wrangler. So the guy that did that shoot did all the Hollywood movies like Anaconda, any movie with insects, whatever. So I reached out to him, and there just so happened to be I forget her name at this moment, the woman who took this image, but she was coming from England. And so they had, in the middle, I'm holding the queen in a cage. So the honeybees are not in a mode to sting. They want to be around the queen bee, which you see I'm holding. She's covered in bees. So they put them on ice and they dump them. So you could see I got stung on my throat, which is interesting because, by the way, my first language is French, like the fact that I have this gift of gab. And so at that moment, like if I had panicked, game over. Because once a honeybee stings, then they let out a pheromone, right? So I have all these like little insect legs all over me, and I'm just feeling like love. And then I didn't flinch and took that photo in Glendale, somewhere in Glendale.
Rupert.
Yes, yeah, Pasadena, Glendale, yeah.
That's right.
Because I wanted.
Yeah, interesting about the throat energy.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Crazy.
Also remembering I've been killed for speaking out. So thanks for showing that, Jordan.
Was that one bee, you think, like an inside job? Someone slipped in and like a CIA agent in there.
She lost her life.
Like, go for the throat.
Africanized bee.
You know, someone asked me, I was hit outside of the Bodhi tree and dragged 35 feet from, you know where the Bodhi tree is, Andreas, right?
For sure.
So it's now defunct metaphysical bookstore. So when I had my spiritual awakening,
like Good Earth.
Where's the tree? For people who
know, it's a bookstore next to close to the Good Earth Cafe, which is a weird vampire organic cafe where they have a Good Earth with a U, and they have
And where is this?
In LA.
In LA, okay.
Is it still there, Andreas? I haven't been.
I got only. It's been a minute since I was there. I just remember going there, and it wasn't open in the daytime. It was only at night, and they had little signs that said, "We don't serve garlic with any of our food." And I was like,
"That's different ownership. It wasn't always." That's hilarious. What are they, vampires?
I hope to God. You know, what other excuses do you have to be so against a wonderful supplement like garlic? You know.
True.
Hilarious. Yeah, so I got hit outside of the Bodhi tree and dragged 49 feet. The car was going 35 miles an hour. And interestingly, when I had my spiritual awakening, it was reading, I read Out on a Limb, where Shirley MacLaine talks about, wow, that's the side store because they built a bigger one.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I got the picture of the newer one. Maybe here. This is the bigger one, right?
Yeah. Wow. What is that? Pictures from the 70s?
This is from the 80s probably, and then or like late 80s, and then this is from early 2000s. This one here. I remember in 2010, I think it was still around, so it's been a while, but
wow, it has its own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I mean it was a big deal. I mean,
it was.
They had all the cool books. They had the Kabbalah sections, and you know.
I used to love going there. I mean, that's the side. So I got hit right outside of there, and someone said, do you think that was a? But I wasn't doing anything yet. So I was just working at NBC, and then I quit and went freelance. So.
Crazy. So, just to get back to George Floyd and your book, before we start wrapping up, is there anything that you can tell us about that's important to know about the autopsy? I mean, I do know that it was noted. You noted that they noted that his back, his buttocks, and his anus were unremarkable. But so what's the deal? So how did George Floyd die? How did George Floyd really die? Give us the details.
Well, the chapter is Tale of Two Autopsies, because like I mentioned, they dusted off Michael Baden, the Hollywood forensic, and he had a sidekick. But there was actually more than two autopsies, because I think the military, I don't know what I put the name, so there's another autopsy. So it was arguably drugs, but like I said, you would have to, it could have even been something else. It could have been something other than fentanyl, but the fentanyl is a little FU in the face, because that's what's ravishing Americans. I want to say that Stranger, the La Ma OG gang member, is not down with ravishing, killing like children and women, and he wants to get out and clean the streets. So who is really behind the fentanyl? Just would like to say that no one really looked at the fake money or the fake drugs to, if anyone really cared about this man's Black life, we would have tracked down the source. So as far as the autopsy, it's a farce. It's a farce. The medical examiner almost lost his job, and I mentioned the Islamic. There is an Islamic component to this. Some medical examiner threatened. Keith Ellison is also Islamic, and so I talk about the Palestinian family. So anyway, the autopsy, no one really understood what he died from, and that is part of the duty to intervene exercise, where you role play and you're not very sure about what the death is like, because there's all talk about the excited delirium. I was in Florida, actually near Orlando, at a conservative event, and a chick had excited delirium. I mean, she had to be strapped down. She looked demonic. She was very strong, and so did her boyfriend. It seemed that they both had this. So there's a whole component about what is excited delirium. Now excited delirium is racist. There's so yeah, the autopsy is under question. And it so happens, I had shared earlier that I have had a fascination with death. So after I got hit by an SUV in front of the Bodhi tree, I had met a homicide detective. So I was still had not gone into physiotherapy, and he took me to the moratorium, to the the medical examiner the coroner's office, in Los Angeles. So I thought it was going to be like one body, but it was very surreal. It was August, and there were bodies everywhere, and I saw that I could have ended up there had I died that day. Anyway, I'm just bringing that up because there's different ways to cut into bodies. There's different methods. Right. And there's a lot of question of how he died. I mean, how he died, and who only Andrew Baker did the autopsy.
Okay. There's no assistant or anything?
Not that I know of. And there, in the Michael Baden, there's the woman, the Black woman who's playing his sidekick. But when I called them and I asked for the report, there's no official report. There's no official report from this sidekick autopsy medical examiner. And yet they made all this hullabaloo. Michael Baden was in his face diaper talking about the reason how Derek died, which was a knee to the neck, which is not true.
Okay. Andreas, Thomas, do you guys have any questions for Miriam about the book before we start wrapping up?
I think it's been awesome to hear what you have to say and like all the things you've been working on. Particularly, it's awesome just to hear how your life has progressed but also that you're keeping all this information for everyone, because I think people will take a story, not look into it, just accept it at face value, and they let it control their lives without ever even wondering about what's really going on. I wish you could make a movie where Elliot Page plays Derek Chauvin. I think that would probably be cool, but
Wow.
but yeah, no, I mean, I think it's amazing, and I hope to look forward. I look forward to doing another show with you soon. We should definitely get back together again and do another show.
Yeah. I'll send you an invite for sure, Z's. I'm writing my second book, which is more magical realism, which is about twin flames, quantum entanglement, unconditional love, synchronicities, reincarnation, and soul, which is the book that my soul wants to write, and which. So I realized that, yeah, this was an assignment, because I was joking that I'd have my own effing great reset after finishing the book, and I had the Kundalini, and then I went to do plant medicine, and I was told, you graduated, Miriam. I did Bufo, which I had done before, and I heard, you graduated, Miriam. You're no longer going to look at the dark side. You were given an assignment to look at the inverted matrix, and you didn't whore out your soul. I didn't. I stood for other people at my expense. I'm done being a martyr. And now I want to be a girl, because I've 6 plants in Capricorn. A lot of women are in their male. You know, we all have these, that's the thing. You don't have to, it's not your pee or your yoni. It's like we both have divine masculine and divine feminine energies inside of us. And so, yeah, I'm doing my Substack, which is miriamhinane.substack, and I'm trying to find a partner for my company, because I need to remove my name because I'm on a government crap list. Yeah, that's my website. That's where you can get, thank you, Jordan. That's where you can get the book and the movie. You can get it on Amazon, but I am banned on Amazon, although they let me keep my KDP. So yeah, I would rather.
It's like super expensive on Amazon.
Well, it's the same price. You can get the ebook on Amazon.
No, okay. Because like when I checked, it was like $100 for the book.
No, it's $66.66. And if you buy it from my site, you can use GF Book for 15% off. But the truth is dangerous, and I'm done throwing my pearls to swine. So
word.
Yeah, word. It's on Canadian Amazon for $100.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Canadian Amazon.
Just under $100.
Yeah, you had to pay a lot to even ship the book to you. It was a little bit nuts.
Yeah, shipping's ridiculous here.
A lot of the articles when I used to write for Penthouse, Marie Claire, Madda.
Yeah, you interviewed the dude who made that book or that documentary, Supersize Me, right?
Oh, Morgan Spurlock.
Yeah. Morgan Spurlock.
Morgan is he alive? Or is it
no,
a mental
he passed away.
Did he really?
He choked on a Big Map.
Oh my god.
Morgan Spurlock died, I think, from alcohol poisoning, right? Didn't he? So that was the.
Oh, just like a year ago.
Yeah, pretty recently.
Wow.
I was going to do a profile for him for Penthouse. So I think I did interview him. I worked on one of his series too.
Wow. You've got a crazy career. It's amazing how you're still here after what you've put out there for people. I mean, stay alive, please. And you have fabulous hair, by the way. I wanted to tell you the whole time. I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, me too. I love that hairdo. It's great.
Thank you. I do dance videos. That's all I can do on TikTok. I've had a couple people say, I'm surprised you're alive. I'll say cancel, clear, delete.
Right.
I am looking for protection, though, after being infiltrated by a pharmaceutical company. So I'm looking for an operations person, a visionary, because I had it all wrong, where I let people rob my honey, and now I realize my worth. So yeah, and a Kundalini, like that in itself is worth like a show, because they demonified it and the Christians made it the snake. And it's really tapping into your innate divinity. And I think all the lies put together is to hide the one lie, that you have innate divinity and your salvation comes from going within. I wish I got that memo. But like in Westworld, I was like, yeah, I've been killed before. I'm watching. Oh yeah, I worked on Catwoman.
Yeah, I mean, come on, that's pretty good.
Thomas,
That was on the reshoots, and I was very, very thin, and they thought I was related to Halle Berry. Yeah, that was interesting to see the shit show of reshoots on a Hollywood set. Yeah, I have stories.
Thomas, do you have any other questions about George Floyd or the book before we wrap it up?
Oh no, just the same. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for putting out the movie. Thanks for putting out the book. Thanks for putting out all your content. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And obviously, Paranoid American, you can find him at paranoidamerican.com. Yeah, man.
If you want to see how I was trained in MK Ultra arts by military, by Disney, by Viacom, those are all my credentials. So I've taken everything that I've learned from working in the belly of the beast, kind of like Miriam here. I've kind of like taken all that knowledge and now I'm trying to repurpose it for teaching people about government corruption and conspiracy theories.
I've seen you with Donut.
Yeah, this is the comic I did with Donut, which is called Are You Under Illuminati Mind Control, which is a full historical breakdown of the Bavarian Illuminati from the 18th century to the 21st century. And I also on here, I don't promote it often for obvious reasons, but I do have a Death by Cop play set, which is outside of Cup Foods. And it's got like a little... Yeah,
dude, that's amazing. Push that.
I don't push it often just because I feel like it could get me taken down off of some of the places that I push. Yeah, there's the Death by Cop playset. Yeah.
Nice. Love it.
Battery's not included.
Jordan,
assault and battery not included.
Is it possible to show my Substack? I'd like to show.
Yeah, sure. Just tell me what the link is. I'll pull it up.
It's mariamhinane.substack.com.
Hold on.
Yeah. So
I realized
definitely check out Paranoid American stuff. I recently put in an order. So
it's HENEIN, no I. I was like, oh my god, I'm gone.
Oh, I see what I did there.
So yeah, I'm super excited to get that stuff, man. So yeah, make sure to check out his story. He's got some really cool stuff.
You can see the free?
Yeah, here we go. There we go.
Okay. So yeah, that's where I'm writing about. I'm gonna turn it into a book, and my goal is to sell it to Hollywood about the twin flames. I've been investigating because it's a $2 billion industry and there's a lot of BS in this space as well. But I write about today. I wrote about the bioeconomy of control. I'm seeing that Sabrina Wallace is gaining ground. I started listening to her 2 years ago. So she's talking about DARPA and the Internet of Bodies, which I've been covering a lot. So yeah, people can sign up. They give a lot of free information, and they mess with me there as well as far as numbers and stuff. So I'd be grateful if people signed up. Even sharing, it makes a difference. Sharing is caring.
Absolutely.
Silence is violence.
Right on. Yeah. And Xirtus, pull up your stuff, man.
Go to Xirtus.com. Like and support us.
Man.
Do what you can do. If you like what you're seeing here and you want to hear more, from all of us and from amazing people like Miriam. And hey, you know what? Like, go to iqtink.com. I put the link in the chat. Someone mentioned it earlier. Gotta sling that garlic. We're doing a 20% off if you use the Xirtus code. This is what I give my dad. It's a crazy, amazing thing. This natural medicine that is made in Austria, and we'll talk about it more. But
I'll check that out. Cool.
I'd like to know more. It's a nootropic.
It's a nootropic made of garlic, and it's insanely viable for all sorts of things. We're gonna have to do a huge deep dive on it because
I bet you parasites.
Let's do it.
Parasites, blood pressure.
Let's get Julie on for that.
ATP Krebs cycle helps with rejuvenation. Dementia help. My dad's risen like 12 cognitive points since taking
really
it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to check that out for my grandma.
There's like 350,000 studies from the NIH on garlic, and the Russians used to call it red penicillin, Russian penicillin. That was like the medicine. And if you look back at the Ebers papyrus and you start to look into garlic, we'll make a whole thing on this. But yeah, I'm putting my name behind this garlic. IQ Tank, it's the way to go. Get yourself the Xirtus code for 20% off. Try it out. We'll talk way more about that in the future. But sweet. And then Divulgence.
Yeah,
thank
very
you,
happy to have you guys here for the first Bring Back show of Divulgence. If you like this stuff, make sure to go check out YouTube, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at DivulgencePod. You can send me an email, divulgencepod@gmail.com. Also, for those in the Xirtus verse and for those who listen to the Divulgence Pod, make sure to pay attention because we are going to be giving away a brand new iPad, 64 gig iPad, and a case for it. So
this guy right here, dude.
For that, we're going to figure out the details for that. So stay tuned, but that's coming soon. But yeah, thanks for everyone watching. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I hope everyone had a great time. I appreciate everyone.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Thank you all of you for having me on. It's a treat.
Thanks for being here. This was a great talk, and make sure to check out her book. Because it's good stuff, and obviously she worked her ass off for it, and so show her some support, and you can also leave her, I believe you can also leave her tips in her store as well. So show some support, show some love, and everyone be well.
Thank you.
Love you guys all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.